Ilmiöt.
Who are you? Male? Female? For some, gender is like a costume, a grown-up game of dress-up. For just one night, you can choose who you want to be, a woman or a man. But a few want more, much more. They want to actually become the opposite sex. They are transsexuals. Convinced they're born into the wrong body, they're willing to turn to hormones and dramatic surgeries to forever change their gender. At present, there are at least 110,000 transsexuals living in North America, and that number increases every week. They could be the teacher at the grade school down the block, the preacher at a local church, the pregnant woman in the park. Transsexuals seek a radical transformation, a whole new life. For them, it's more than just about sex. It is about who and what they are. Of all the animals, only humans can decide to be male or female. Just in our lifetime, medical technologies have made it possible to change a man into a woman and a woman into a man. Transsexuality came out of the lab and into the public in the 1950s with the headline-grabbing case of Christine Jorgensen, an American GI from the Bronx who was surgically transformed into a nightclub diva. People who get sex change operations are called transsexuals, and it's often a scandalous choice. Rebecca Steen lives in the suburbs of Baltimore, Maryland. She's an active member of her church and a grandmother of 3.
Becky came into our church in February of 2000, and I took her aside after one of the Sundays when she had been reading the scriptures, and I said to her, "What is your story? I know there's something about you because you have such a presence up there and you're so comfortable."
And the Lord said, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you."
She said, "Amy, I really need to tell you something." And I said, "Okay." And she said, "I used to be fat and bald." It was a surprise to me. She looked like a woman I never would have imagined her having ever been anything else.
But Becky had been something else, somebody else. She had been a pillar of the community, an ordained minister with the United Methodist Church. Her name had been Richard Zamosny, husband and father of 3. Rebecca's is the classic transsexual story. Someone who always knew they were born into the wrong body.
I was probably about 6, I think, when I first recognized that something was wrong. My nightly prayer was for God to please change me, with the hopes that somehow magically I would wake up the next morning and I could be the person who I was supposed to be.
But Becky couldn't share her secret. In the 1960s, the rules were pretty clear. Women relied on men who had the money and the power. Switching teams seemed crazy.
Here I was, assured in my own heart that I was the wrong gender. Boy. The only thing I could do was to buck up and try to be normal. So, in effect, I put myself in a box. And I decided that I was going to be the best little boy that there ever was.
So Becky did the boy things, hunting and fishing, Little League baseball, even Boy Scouts. Of course, the best way to hide is in plain sight. For Richard, that meant dating, having a steady girlfriend, and the ultimate signature of the straight, mainstream life.
I was engaged when I was 15 and married at 19, thinking everything was going to be normal. Of course it wasn't.
In a nutshell, transsexuality is a person's desire to live their lives as the other sex, the sense that they would be happier living as the opposite sex of whichever they were born with.
Dr. Cantor specializes in therapy for transsexuals. To outsiders, his patients appear to be suffering from a mental disease in search of a cure.
Is this a mental illness such that the person just needs a little bit of Prozac or a good therapist and a little bit of talking and they'll get over these feelings? No. In that sense, it's not a mental disease. This is an actual core characteristic of the person that will always be there. If by disorder or disease we mean that this person needs help from trained medical physicians in order to bring their life to a better place, well, then yes, it is. This person is going to need to be on a life full of hormones and a large set of rather dramatic surgical treatments in order to actualize their entire life.
Morning, y'all. My name is Mr. Pierce.
It's December 22nd, Atlanta, Georgia. Grade school teacher Dane Pierce is planning on spending his holidays out west. He's going to San Francisco for sex reassignment surgery.
My kids are getting restless. Guess they're excited with Christmas coming up. Not half as excited as I am. Sometimes I feel like I just can't wait. Hard to focus on my teaching these last few days.
Dane hopes to leave not his heart, but his gender in San Francisco. It will take 5 days and $10,000. Dane is keeping an online diary, chronicling for us the before, during, and after of his journey to the opposite sex. On December 29th, he arrives, alone, in the city that will change him forever.
I'm here. I made it to San Francisco. I can't believe this day is finally here. I worked so hard to make this happen, and now it's actually going to happen.
As excited as he is, he's paying an enormous personal price for this decision. A price all too familiar to many transsexuals. His family has disowned him. His longtime partner has left. His job is in jeopardy. Dane's now isolated, facing major surgery in a strange city, all on his own.
I'm here. I made it to San Fran.
For Dane, who comes from a conservative small-town background, the city by the bay offers up a bizarre and different world.
I was in San Francisco, about to have my surgery. Everything was surreal, almost like I had just jumped into my own soap opera. Once I'm done with my surgery, I'll have a while to heal, but then I can just relax and not have to focus on really hiding anymore. But I'm just looking forward to finally being able to feel right.
Like most transsexuals, Dane wants to feel at home in his body, to know that how he looks matches how he feels. However, not all transsexuals are so brutally cut off from their past when transitioning to the opposite sex. Mira Soleil is a filmmaker and performance artist. She was born male and raised as a boy. But in 1990, at the age of 20, she had breasts surgically implanted and has been living as a woman ever since. She was born into a staunchly Roman Catholic, French-Canadian community. You might think that her relationship to her family would be, like Dane's, strained. You'd be wrong.
I think what strikes a lot of people is that kind of easiness with which my mother has accepted me being a transsexual.
We love her, we adore her. I say my daughter, but at the beginning it was my son. My son, my daughter, I got it all mixed up. But in time, it's starting to come together as my daughter.
I feel that until I was, that even when I tried to live as a boy from the age of 16 until 20, I looked androgynous and I look eccentric and I look effeminate.
So when she told me your problems, I said, look, live as a girl. Stop trying to live as a guy. You're not a guy. You are a girl.
It's clear Mira's family has displayed remarkable understanding. And Mira's ease of self and confidence may be the result.
Yeah.
Maman, j'ai le buste généreux.
Pour être généreux, il est généreux. Oh là là.
Comme ma mère.
Oh non, dans la famille de ça. Oui.
Je suis pendant 1 an avec quelqu'un.
An accepting family is an advantage that Dane and many other transsexuals do not usually have.
The much more common reaction is one of great displeasure. There are some parents and families who will completely disown themselves of their child. I mean, we still live in a society that has large chunks of homophobia in it, and what we often call transphobia is just a logical extension of that.
It's now December 30th, 24 hours before Dane's surgery. Near the tracks by the side of an expressway underpass is the office of Dr. Michael Brownstein.
The first appointment of the day was my meeting with Dr. Brownstein at 10 a.m. I took the bus there and was about 10 minutes late.
Dane found Brownstein online. They've exchanged emails and faxes, but this is the very first time they've ever met face-to-face.
He's actually the best in his field as far as just the pictures that I've seen of everybody, all of the different surgeries. He's just the best. I mean, he's the most expensive too, but I can afford to pay, so.
So Dane, anyway, I'm Mike Brownstein, Dr. Brownstein, and it's good to see you.
Brownstein specializes in sex reassignment surgeries. He averages 3 to 4 operations a week.
They know that. The people there are very efficient and they're very conscious of the kind of work I do and respectful of it. And they'll be good to you. It'll be, given that it's surgery, it'll still be, in one end, a pleasant experience. What I'd like to do now is go over and we'll I'd see your chest and take a photograph.
Okay.
And I can explain my markings.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Brownstein's going to mark out how much of Dane's breasts he has to remove. Yes, breasts. Fact is, Dane was born as Jennifer, as a girl. For 10 months, she's been dressing as a man, taking a course of the male hormone testosterone, and insisted on being called he. Now, she is here to have her breasts surgically removed and a male chest constructed.
Oh, you have more?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't feel awkward with my shirt off at all. I mean, they're boobs, but they're small boobs.
Okay. Anyway, tomorrow I'm going to be marking out the margins of your breast, and though it all seems
tomorrow,
like
he takes the next and biggest step yet towards leaving his old identity as Jennifer behind and becoming Dane, becoming a man.
And maybe I still have batteries, huh? Okay, it passes?
Yes.
for Dane, being a woman has always felt like a lie.
Female-to-male transsexuals tend to be relatively uniform. Even when they were children, they were very tomboyish. They tend to have a great resistance to anything female, and they, throughout their entire lives, had a great sense of being male.
In my head, and growing up, I always thought of myself as a guy. And then puberty hit, and my mom made me wear dresses. She wouldn't buy me jeans unless I wore a dress once a week. And, you know, I wore makeup, and I tried to fit in with the girls, and it just didn't work, and so I just ended up being by myself.
Jennifer became a lonely, confused, and violent teen. And, as many with such a history, the solution seemed to be first therapy, then Uncle Sam.
The Army it had its good and bad points. I really liked basic training and doing the obstacle courses and all those fun things. I really liked wearing the uniform. I liked saying I was a soldier.
It was at this point Jennifer made a turn that is near universal among female-to-male transsexuals. She came out as a lesbian.
Their bodies are female. They're almost always attracted to other females, so they have this period just assuming that they're lesbians, and it's only after trying to live a life in the gay community as an open lesbian that they realize that that's not enough.
And Jenny certainly fit this description. Even as a professed lesbian, she was still searching for who and what she was. Then, a seemingly mundane event at her part-time job set off an explosive revelation.
One day, a lady came through my line. She was obviously trying to pass as a woman, but to me, she didn't.
Uncomfortable, Jennifer cracked a joke about the woman. Then cruelty turned into guilt. Jennifer realized the woman had hurt her.
Man, it stuck with me, and I beat myself up over it for weeks. And then just one day, the thought popped in my head, well, what if I'm transgendered? What if, you know, what if that's me? I started doing research and looking at other people. And when I closed my eyes, what I imagined my body would look like, how I saw myself, and it wasn't in a female body.
Rebecca, on the other hand, did not go through her transition by way of homosexuality. As Dane's path was classic for a female-to-male, Becky's is more typical of the male-to-female transsexual.
He was this big, cushy guy who looked like maybe a younger version of Santa Claus. He wasn't gray yet, but he had the full beard, and he had, you know, this friar tuck hair, and, you know, he was a guy.
She was not only a husband and devoted father, she also was deeply embedded in a mainstream Christian community.
I was called and had been called to those who are hurting, those who are in need, and I preach that way.
Richard seemed destined to play an important role in the United Methodist Church. He led one of the oldest and most established congregations in the area. His leadership and courage were inspiring, even outside the church. He attracted attention when he decided to take on the Maryland Ku Klux Klan.
And they were doing stuff like getting robed and standing on street corners trying to convert people.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today. Hey, thank you, man. A nice day and everything. It's nice to see so many white faces. You might be black!
So on the same day, Richard organized a counter-demonstration calling it United in Love.
Over music, food, and the colors of diversity, members of Thurmont United in Love gathered to denounce the message of the Ku Klux Klan.
For his efforts, there were often very real and very frightening repercussions.
I would get death threats. My children would be hurt. I had law enforcement people and federal government all coming down. There were bomb-sniffing dogs. There were all kinds of things. So I was the pastor, in effect, a father figure for a whole church.
But it's hard to be a father figure when you feel like a woman. With no obvious role models in the Bible, Richard used the good book to hide his true feelings.
There's a piece of scripture that says, "And men shall not don the clothing of women." And that was, you can't do this because that's what the Bible says. My preaching sermon style became very critical. It became more dogmatic. It became harsher, more biblically fundamental. And I was very good. I was very good.
However, it is with his children that the conflict for Richard becomes almost too much to bear. It comes to a head when his son, like his dad, joined the Boy Scouts.
I can still remember the day he received his Eagle Scout award. I had an Eagle Scout ring that I gave him. At that point, he stood up at everybody and he told them that I was his hero. And, it was just, it was awesome and humbling.
But when the kids finally left home, Richard was ready to cast off fatherhood and marriage for good.
Finally, I was 45. I was free. I was free to be who I was supposed to be.
The honest truth, and I don't even think he knows this, is that I knew before he told me. I had uncovered some things in the house after my mom had moved that seemed odd to me that she would have left behind. But between finding, like a bra that I couldn't figure out why she had left, and then I went in his day planner one night, and there was a date marked in his day planner with Johns Hopkins decision necessary. And I instantly knew upon reading that he was going to have a sex change.
When his daughter got married, Richard vowed that the wedding would be the last time he would ever dress as a man.
I don't know. The next day he left that night. Like after our wedding, we went to the hotel and he went and dropped off all his clothes at the church. We walked out the door and so did Richard.
To change a woman into a man takes more than surgery. For the past year, Dane has been taking the male hormone, testosterone. Testosterone has a huge impact on the female body. No wonder it's known as the hormone of desire. From Dane's internet diary.
My voice dropped a little again. I can tell because I got my Barry Manilow CD around the time I started T. I've been singing along with it the whole time, and I can now hit this one low note that was beyond my range before.
Dane gives himself 100 milligrams of testosterone each week. There's no ignoring its effects. Dane's cheeks now have whiskers. His muscles are growing, and so is his libido.
I never really understood the difference between males and females, guys and girls, until I started taking testosterone. And I totally understand certain things about being a guy, like the libido is incredible. I have never felt such urges as a female. Sex was just one of those things that happened or didn't happen, and it wasn't a big deal either way. Now it's a pressing subject on my mind. And I totally understand. I mean, my brain's kind of like a 14-year-old boy right now, I think. My arms have gotten more muscular, just like my wrists, and in places you don't really think about having muscle. I've lost some hair just right here. Now I have hair like on the middle of my kneecap and more places on my legs. I shaved this morning. I read the advice from people who said, don't press down too hard, so I didn't. Well, I guess I should have pressed the razor down some because I still have patchy peach fuzz. So many things to learn.
There was also a change that he was, somehow, not prepared for. Taking testosterone will stop a woman's period. At the age of only 30, Dane is slammed into menopause.
I had night sweats last night pretty bad. Menopause sucks. I thought I'd get to skip that part. What was I thinking?
Tomorrow, this menopausal woman will take the next step towards manhood. Surgery. Rebecca is a prime example of the full range of what medical science can now do to change a person's gender.
This is some nice apples. You can see nice apples in here. But then in a minute, we're going to change that over. We're going to and make it even nicer because we're going to add some sugar. I'm going to add some spices and everything nice, right? That's what little girls are made of. And that's what in a way happened to me. The pressure got to the point where I had to do it. It wasn't a choice of, well, I want to do this, you know, let's go do this. It'll be fun to do it. It's not a fun thing. People advised me along the way. They said, if you do this, you're going to lose all your friends, your family's going to desert you, nobody's going to have to talk with you, you're going to be kicked out of the church, you're going to live a life that will be just poor and needy, and economically you'll be destroyed, and your life will be ruined forever. And even with that, believe me, I thought about that a lot. But even with that, being who you are was so much more important. I could not live the rest of my life not being who I am. One of the biggest things that happened was the shaving of that beard. That was a monumental step. Because when the beard went, I had the beard for years and years and years, and when the beard went, transition began.
Literally overnight, Becky erased Richard's existence. She got rid of all his clothes, his personal effects. She even collected every picture of Richard she could find and burned them all.
It was like Scripture says, being born again. And it was kind of like that.
Doctors cut away her penis and testicles. Then they sculpted her new female body, building breasts and a vagina. To inhabit this new body, she even took courses on how to speak and move like a woman.
The whole process for me took about 14 months until the surgery was completed. And here's Becky.
But there's a catch. Surgically implanted genitals don't work like the real thing. An issue Mira Soleil has been grappling with in her latest video project.
My decision to embark on the pregnancy project was because I turned 30, and all my female friends, or most of my female friends, were all either thinking about having a child or were getting pregnant and having children. And this is what led me to question how many transsexual women out there would like to bear a child, and how many of them would like to bear a child as a result perhaps of feeling that they will not be fully women until they can do such a thing.
So far, science hasn't found a way to make transsexuals fertile, and that can make a difference to their parents.
What the video really is about, it's about the fact that because I am a transsexual, she will not be able to be a grandmother. My mother would like to be a grandmother, just like all the other women of her age who are living in her neighborhood and in our family. And for her, it's a loss, and it's something she's having to mourn.
I'm not saying it wasn't difficult, because sometimes we see people with their grandchildren and they ask me, "Don't you have any grandchildren?" And I have to say no, my daughter can't have children.
During the course of making her film, Mira Soleil never went out in public without appearing pregnant.
Sometimes I would meet people who knew I was a transsexual, so they would see me pregnant and they just didn't know how to react. How did she get pregnant? Did she get this implanted in her belly? Does she have a uterus? She's in between. She's a hermaphrodite.
Mira's disguise is decidedly low-tech. A beach ball.
Oh, so that could have been maybe, I don't know, this could have been 4 months.
But could a transsexual get pregnant without having a uterus? Or could a man have a baby? Dr. Pierre Brissard is one of the leading sex reassignment surgeons in the world.
Technically, it's possible. Medically, it's possible. I've been thinking about this. I have a surgery in my mind for this, but the problem is all the ethical questions. The idea would be to implant an egg in the abdomen and hope that it grows. The trick would be to find a way to isolate the pregnancy from the rest of the bowels by creating a uterus, a neo-uterus.
Ironically, there have been cases of women who have had babies which take root outside the uterus. But is it ethical to do this on purpose?
Some people will say you shouldn't change your genitals, that this is taking it too far, you know, and some other people will say it is okay to change your genitals, but wanting to have children and have a uterus and do reproductive organ transplant, that's getting into Frankensteinian kind of things and technologies, and that's weird and freaking. You shouldn't do that.
How are you going to pay your fees today?
Part check, part credit card.
December 31st, New Year's Eve. Dane's day has arrived.
I went in and checked in. They had me changed into the little gown and booties.
Just get you to lie on the bed now. Just come in now.
The nursing people did the IV and all that stuff. Then they told me they'd be in soon to take me into surgery. The people at the surgery center were all super nice. They never once looked at me like I was a freak or anything different from any other patient.
Sit up real straight.
How are you feeling?
Okay, I'll see you in the operating room.
All right.
Soon. Soon. Nervous?
A little bit.
Normal.
We'll give you a little medicine in a sec to kind of take the edge off, because we realize that everyone's nervous, and this just kind of relaxes you a little bit. Gets you in the mood for surgery if that's possible.
Okay.
Pleasure to meet you. We'll see you in a sec.
Okay, thanks.
This goes in the line and just gradually goes round, circulates round and makes you feel nice and mellow.
The nurse finally came in and gave me my drugs. I remember it feeling cold in the IV on my hand.
doesn't hurt at all, though. I'm just gonna work on my abs so I don't have the curves on the side. Be like the hottest dude on the beach.
Yeah.
For Rebecca, this had been home for 15 years. But would the church accept a father becoming a mother? Rebecca wasn't sure, and neither was anyone else.
My journey as far as the church goes really began when I went to the bishop of the conference and told him that I went to tell him the whole thing.
The bishop of the conference, Bishop Felton Edwin May.
Can we be faithful to God when we're up to our eyebrows in fear?
He's head of the United Methodist Church for the Washington, D.C., Baltimore region.
In my heart.
My understanding and expectation was that I would take the time, go on leave of absence, transition, and then come back to a new appointment somewhere.
But churches are bad places to keep a secret. Word of Rebecca's impending sex change operation leaked out, and that forced the bishop's hand.
I was given a couple days to basically go to my office at the church, clean my office out, and never go back to the church.
Suddenly, Richard was out on the street, a fallen angel. As a minister, he had been a star in one of the oldest and most respected United Methodist churches in Maryland.
It was like a death, if you will. In some sense, I was treated not like a pastor who had left a congregation, but a similar protocol to a pastor who had done some chargeable offense, something wrong.
Rebecca is forced to go on leave without pay. She takes a job behind the counter of a fast food chain. In time, the church does come up with an appointment to be a missionary, all on her own, in Angola.
But I thought, wait a minute, you know, that's really not the place for me to go to Angola.
Finally, Becky demands to be appointed to a new church. It will all come down to a closed, clergy-only session just before the large annual conference of the Methodist Church. One side is presented by Morris Hawkins, past president of the United Methodist Men.
I was the only one in the entire conference interviewed by the Post, Washington Times, and Baltimore Sun, who would come out and say, I felt that this was sin.
The battle lines are drawn. Rebecca's case goes very public.
The issue is on the front burner of the annual session of the Baltimore-Washington Conference, opening today here in Washington. Behind closed doors at the Renaissance Hotel, more than 600 ministers discussed what to do. Critics are opposed on moral and psychological grounds.
Basically, someone who has had a sex change operation obviously is very confused, probably unstable psychologically, emotionally, probably spiritually, and of course a pastor is supposed to be someone not only very stable, but above reproach.
The Book of Discipline, the laws that govern the Methodist Church, does bar practicing homosexuals from the ministry. But on the issue of transsexuals, the Book of Discipline is silent.
There were people, especially the conservatives, who did not want me in a pulpit anywhere.
For the conservatives, there is no line between homosexual and transsexual when it comes to the ordained ministry.
Going back to what the Bible says, what the role of the male and role of female, relying upon the scriptures as a guide for our behavior.
She is a woman who was born into the wrong body. She's always thought as a woman, she's expressed that, if there were a question about is she gay or not, never, no way.
The clergy session ends in a standoff, a no decision. In the end, without any express ruling from the Book of Discipline, it looks like Rebecca will have to be given a church. However, at the 11th hour, she gets blindsided.
And the bishop then told that conference that unless somebody brought some kind of charges against me, that he was going to have to appoint me. And in effect, almost asking for somebody to bring some kind of charges.
There were accusations of financial impropriety, questions about marriages and funerals she had performed as Richard, the validity of her birth certificate and baptism. The knives were out.
I never complained. I never defended myself. I never opened my mouth. I basically sat and listened as they literally just, you know, it was just evil, just bad.
It's just struck to the core of my being, and as I've said, has led me to re-examine everything that I stand for as a human being and as a Christian.
It became apparent that the accusations would keep on coming. Rebecca feared the church would be split in two.
Probably the hardest thing that I've ever done was to leave the church that I love so much. I, Reverend Rebecca Ann Steen, do hereby withdraw from the ordained ministerial office and from the United Methodist Church. I willingly and without reservation surrender my credentials this, the 28th day of June, 2002.
It's now 2 months since his surgery in San Francisco. Dane's hard at work in his home gym.
I worked out today. No kidding, chest and triceps. I was really hoping to have the perfect chest right after surgery. Not happening. It's gonna take some work, but I still have potential. I look in the mirror at my body and it finally looks right. It finally looks like I feel on the inside. And I know it's not done changing yet. Just in the past few days since my last haircut, have I been able to look in the mirror and think that I might be attractive. I'm feeling much better about the way I look now. Transition is a wonderful thing.
Though Becky has resigned from the United Methodists, she continues to preach at various other churches in the Baltimore area.
All kinds of new adventures and new things are opening to me. And I haven't lost my family. I have lost my relationship with the United Methodist Church, but that's okay. My ministry is now beyond it. I lost my income. I'm recovering. And I believe that in the near future, I'm going to be doing as well, if not better, than before.
Godspeed.
Peace be with you.
Peace with you. I loved your sermon. It was beautiful.
Thank you very much. I do preach around at different churches that invite me. What a crazy world, huh? I'm now doing counseling from marriage issues to personal issues to gender identity issues to whatever the case may be. They seek me out and I help them the best I can.
So Dane and Rebecca seem to be doing well. But what does the research say about the long-term prognosis? Dr. Cantor's answer is surprising and, for transsexuals, encouraging.
The great majority of them lead much happier lives. They're more likely to maintain relationships. They're more likely to have stable jobs. They tend to contact mental health professionals much less often. There's less anxiety they report. There's less depression they report. So really, in the appropriately selected case, it's they almost always do better in their new lives.
My father used to be very rigid. She was very conservative. And when she went through this transition, it's almost like she re-entered puberty and was discovering herself and going through all those things that I myself went through years ago when I was in college. You know, going to bars and meeting new people and trying new things.
Yeah. This is wonderful, isn't it, everybody?
Yes.
Delicious. Oh,
very nice. Thank you.
One thing I haven't gotten in my life yet is a nice guy to share life with. Dated a few guys, but not the right guy yet, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to that.
I have no idea where I'll be in a year, or even 5 months. That's scary and kind of cool. Do I want to be an English teacher in Japan? Join the Merchant Marines? A foreign service agent? I'm ready for an adventure. I'm enjoying trying on different ones for size. I honestly couldn't predict what will be because I don't know what I want it to be yet. Every day, I think at least 3 or 4 times how great it is that I've had surgery. No regrets at all. Truth be told, I feel like running and jumping around. I feel so good. I'm going to try and get a hysterectomy scheduled for spring break.
Unlike Rebecca, Dane is transitioning in stages, both for emotional and financial reasons. Even Mira, who's been female for over a decade, is looking forward to further physical changes.
As I am growing older now, I'm 33. I've been living as a woman since 1990. I've been living as a woman with a penis since 1990. I'm hoping I will not be a 40-year-old woman with a penis. It's not, you know, I think I've done everything I can with my penis, and I've done everything I could politically with it. At this point, it's time for a little change, transformation, and move on now. I've had enough of it.
It'd be silly to say that by doing this one thing, you've solved everything in your entire life. That can't be, like, it just can't be. But it makes sense looking back on all the trouble that I've had. You know, the hard time I had as a teenager makes sense now that I think back about the things that I was struggling with. I'm a lot more relaxed now that I've come to terms with what was going on with me.
I love my life. I love who I am. A veil of darkness in my concept of who I am has been lifted. I have struggles. We all do. Yeah. Am I struggling financially? Sure. Am I struggling to be accepted? Yeah. Am I able to help other people? Yeah. Am I able to love my grandchildren? Yes. Am I able to be comfortable with who I am without hiding anymore? Absolutely. Would I go back? Never. Never. I'm finally who I'm supposed to be.